Hey, what's up, you guys? WhiteXM here, and I'm gonna put in another top 10 list, and I haven't done one for like a few days or so, of something that I kind of amazed myself that it took me this long to make this one, but this is going to be the top 10 Swedish death metal bands. Now, Sweden is pretty much the country that, is a gold mine for death metal, and to this day, they're still popping out left and right death metal bands here and there. And yeah, I just want to put in my top 10 for my top 10 favorites. Remember, this is my opinion. Hopefully, my whole main purpose of these videos is for you to discover new bands or remind you of them. That's the main purpose of this. And yeah, let's get this underway. I got two honorable mentions. The first one's At the Gates. I thought their first album or second album, Red in the Skyline, or whatever it's called, I thought that was their best, easily. And Slaughter of the Soul came on, and though it's catchy, it loses its flavor and catchiness to me very quickly. But they're a solid band nonetheless that has some pretty groovy and melodic tunes to them that I really don't need to tell you to check out. It's just one of those bands that we all know. And the second honorable mention is Amon Amarth. I might get some hate for that because I've only put him in honorable mention. But like I said, when it comes to really catchy melodic tunes, they're really fun to listen to at first for me, but they lose a lot of, catchiness really quickly, and that's how it kind of is for Amon Amarth. But their album, Twilight of the Thunder God, I absolutely love, and that was just enough for them to be an honorable mention in this. So anyway, kicking it off, number 10 is Centinex. Centinex, I believe. They reformed last year, and they actually dropped an LP last year that was pretty good. It overall, it was a little too modernized for my taste, their new album, but overall the stuff these guys have made is really dirty, really aggressive death metal, that if you just want death metal, this is the band to go to practically, along with many others. But this is a big recommendation if you want stuff that wasn't so exposed in the scene, and it was kind of a little underground, even though it's considered a big name in the Swedish death metal. But overall, it's a great band you gotta check out. Number 9 is a band that needs to get back together because they've released quite a few classics that I don't know why I keep passing by at my store. But number 9 is Dismember. And their album, or debut album, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream, is a fucking classic that just screams death metal here, death metal there. That's just how it comes off this album. Everything is evil, everything is relentless, everything is pummeling, everything is aggressive. It's practically everything you want in death metal, and Dismember did that with their first two albums to near perfection, and I kind of scratch my head sometimes wondering why I don't have it, and you should definitely pick them up if you see them. So number 9 is Dismember. Number 8 is another band that I wish I had stuff by, but I just don't. Number 8 is Grave. This is pretty much the most ruthless one out of the whole list. Everything is dirty. Everything is just absolutely grotesque. It's really the dirtier side of death metal. Grave has no clean or subtle approach to any of their songs. A lot of it is sinister. A lot of it is just death metal, pretty much, and that's what I really liked about Grave. Their earlier stuff is classics. Their newer stuff, they kind of modernized a little bit, unless not to my liking that much, but it was still passable for the most part for me. But their older stuff is second to none, practically, and you should definitely give Grave a listen, especially their first two albums. Number 7 is a band. So yeah, Grave was number 8. Number 7 now is a band that started off regular death metal but added some melodies to them to make it melodic death metal, and I think they've just improved over time. Number 7 is Hypocrisy, and even though I'm not a big fan of their newest album, End of Disclosure, their previous work, which I can't think of at the moment right now, just give me a second, but I think their previous albums before were a shit ton better, and what I just love about Hypocrisy is that they make it extremely catchy with their melodic riffs, but they don't drown it and melodic riffs, which is a really big important thing for me. And it's just something that kind of loses a lot of taste when it's really melodic, but they just know how to balance it out. And the albums that I really did like by them were The Arrival. I really enjoyed The Arrival. Everything was catchy, everything just stuck in your head, and that's what I really liked about it. I also have one of their EPs that is really like this fucked up looking CD that looks like this, like, it's really weird actually. And yeah, I actually should show it off. Hold on, just let me find it really quick. Do, 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 do. G. Yeah. This right here, Hypocrisy's EP, which is Maximum Abduction. Just, come on. That's fucking weird looking. And it's a pretty killer EP, and believe it or not, this works in your CD player. But yeah, it's a really cool EP that grabbed my attention from how this is made, and the music made me like it a lot. So yeah, give these guys a listen, and you should definitely try to pick this up because I don't think there's that many left. But anyway, yeah, Hypocrisy is number 7 on this list. Next up, number 6 is Dark Tranquility. Borderline could be considered progressive death metal, but for the most part, I feel like it's melodic death metal that's just really well balanced, and I think it's a great band. On all honesty, really, this is another band that arguably I could consider a pitch perfect band. They really haven't made a bad album in my personal view. And just finding anything by them to put in your discography for me is a win-win for me. I feel like, again, they just haven't made anything bad. It's borderline progressive death metal, and I really have no complaints with them. There's some really soothing and laid-back tracks that make it progressive death metal to some degree, but their more upbeat stuff overpowers it to make it melodic death metal, if you want to call it that. But overall, if you call it progressive death metal or melodic death metal, either way, Dark Tranquility is a tremendous band that you should get into if you're not. So yeah, that's number 6. Number 5 is Edge of Sanity. I apologize for my last video where I call them Satanity. I don't know why, but I guess I was just talking really fast. But Edge of Sanity is a tremendous band that is the brother to an upcoming band that's going to be coming up in this list. And even though they're not around, sadly, they've left a tremendous mark in the music world, the progressive death metal world with some of their releases. And it's absolutely soothing, it's elegant, it's beautiful, and yet still has that rough edge to make it death metal that it's one of a kind, really. I really don't like using that word when it comes to a lot of music because it's a word that's really powerful in my view when I use that to describe something. But Edge of Sanity is a really one of a kind band that you should immediately listen to if you don't know of them. So yeah, Edge of Sanity, number 5. Number 4 is a band that's just been kicking it for like almost 30 years now. They've been pretty much badasses ever since. Number 4 is Unleashed. Now their newest album I honestly consider was actually pretty good, which surprised me considering the fact that when you're this old in the scene, your music, your creativity starts to dim down a bit. And Unleashed still has a lot of kick to them, and I feel like they still got a few more albums to go before they ever dim down. Unleashed is really one of the original bands that started the Viking theme. Everyone thinks it's Amon Amarth. It's really Unleashed. And Unleashed, it's just got a death metal feel to it. The whole everything, really, from the artwork to the sound to the logo, everything just reeks death metal, old school death metal, old school death metal, old school death metal. And that's what I really like about Unleashed. You know what you're in for when you listen to Unleashed, and though it won't, make you feel like this is one of a kind, it satisfies you enough to where you need to be, and that's what I get out of Unleashed, through every album they've made, especially Across the Open Sea and Where No Life Dwells. Their first two are hands down their best. So yeah, number 4 is Unleashed. Number 3, this is obvious that it would be in here, it would be higher, but they've been changing their route a little bit. Number 3 is Opeth, a huge name in the progressive metal world and the progressive death metal world. Their first 3 or 4 albums are masterpieces in my opinion. Everything they've made in their early years was breathtaking. For example, Blackwater Park, you could get pretty much everything out of that album. You could get an acoustic song that's extremely relaxing called Harvest, to the more melodic and progressive-y stuff towards the beginning and the closing tracks of the album, that Michael's vocals are just really second to none. They're one of my all-time favorite vocals, and I just love his execution when he brings up those growls, that it's just very signature, and I really can't compare it to anyone else. So yeah, number 3 is Opeth. Number 2, this is beyond obvious enough, it would be this high, is Entombed. Do I even have to say the album, which is why they're like this? Left Hand Path. That is a fucking classic. My god, like, what hasn't been said about that album? I think it's nearly impossible to find someone that would say it's a bad album. This is a really big, humongous innovator in the death metal world that I feel like is really influenced dozens upon tons of acts out there. Every old school death metal band would say they were influenced by them, specifically by Left Hand Path. That album has no bad tracks, no filler tracks, no filler riffs, no filler verses. Everything is near flawless on that album, and Entombed will always be known for that album, and it's really impossible to say anything negative about it. Their other work, their album after, which is called Clandestine, is pretty solid as well, but and then they had Wolverine Blues, which is pretty good, but everything else kind of just falls a little short. I think mostly because we're always like, oh, it's not another Left Hand Path. Individually they're all pretty solid, but Left Hand Path, you know, it's like, it's really hard for them to top it, and no matter what they do, I think they're just going to be known for Left Hand Path. So yeah, Entombed, number 2. Number 1, my personal favorite, and I'll tell you why I put them number 1, because not only because they're my favorite, but number 1 is Bloodbath. And what I love about Bloodbath is that they've gone through multiple vocalists, from Peter of Hypocrisy, Michael from Opeth, and Nick from Paradise Lost. And they both bring a different style to the table, which each one. Michael's vocals had a more, what my favorite out of the 3, that was just so fucking monstrous, that no matter what pace the track was, he would just tear it apart from slow to mid to fast. The dude would just tear it up. Then you had Peter, who pretty much made one of the most well-known death metal tracks ever, Eaten, which, I feel like everyone sings along to, which I never thought that would happen in a death metal track. And then Nick Holmes really just kept the wheel turning with their newest album that was honestly a surprise. It came off more traditional old school death metal that just kept Bloodbath on their destructive rampage, that even though after 6 years they still made another solid album. Bloodbath will always be my favorite because they really haven't made anything bad. From their EPs to their full lengths, these guys are destructive, these guys are evil, they're sinister, their riffs are so fucking awesome, and they're easily my number 1 all-time favorite Swedish death metal band. And yeah, that's my list. Remember guys, it's just my opinion. I'm really interested to know what's your list, what's your top 10, so comment below and let me know. Love hearing your opinions, so comment back to yours as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, liking, supporting, subscribing. You guys are the fucking best, and keep it metal.